I never thought the quiet after my divorce would feel louder than the chaos during it. The papers were signed, the house was divided, and just like that, everything I knew became a memory. I was alone, but in some strange way, I was relieved. I thought I could finally start over. But then, a phone call changed everything. It was my stepson, David. His voice was uncertain, a little shaky, and when he asked if he could move in with me for a while, I didn't hesitate. He had always been a part of my life, even if the marriage hadn't worked out. I told him yes. I thought I was doing the right thing. I had no idea what I was inviting into my home. David was 19, trying to figure out life after high school. He didn't have a close relationship with his biological father, and his mom, my ex, was dealing with her own issues. He needed a place to land, and I had the space. It felt like a second chance for both of us. I remembered the little boy who used to leave his toys in the hallway and who called me Mom before he ever called. Then came the night I woke up to footsteps outside my room. It was past midnight. I lay there, heart racing, listening as the floorboards creaked softly under someone's weight. I called out his name. No answer. I got up, flipped on the hallway light, and saw no one. When I checked his room, the bed was made empty. I stayed awake till he came back around 3 a.m., smelling like rain and something else I couldn't place. He said nothing. Just walked past me and shut his door. That was the first time I truly felt unsettled. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I had always believed in giving people grace, especially family. But things didn't improve. They got stranger. One morning I found a framed photo of me and David from years ago face down on the shelf, the glass cracked. Another day, I noticed things moved in my room, things I hadn't touched. My favorite book missing. A note I had written to myself gone. I asked David if he'd been in there. He looked me dead in the eyes and said no, with a calm that didn't match the fear curling in my gut. I started to journal everything. The little incidents. The silence. The feeling that I was being watched, even in my own home. And the more I wrote down, the more I realized something was deeply wrong. David wasn't just going through a tough time, something about him had changed. I didn't know if it was the divorce, or if he was hiding something. But I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't safe. Not in the way I used to be. The boy I once knew was gone. And what replaced him? I couldn't yet understand. But everything truly fell apart the night I discovered what was hidden in the back of his closet. What I found there would tear open a truth I wasn't ready to face. It was a regular Thursday night when curiosity got the best of me. David had left for work, or at least that's what he said. I waited a bit, pacing around the kitchen, heart in my throat, telling myself I was being paranoid. But there was something about the way he'd been acting lately, detached, distant, like he was hiding something just behind his eyes. That look stayed with me. So when the silence of the house wrapped around me again, I went into his room. I told myself it was just to tidy up, maybe do his laundry. But deep down, I was looking for a reason behind the growing discomfort in my own home. His room was neat. Too neat. Everything folded, nothing out of place. That alone felt wrong for a 19-year-old. I opened drawers, looked under the bed, nothing. But something about the closet caught my attention. I walked over and slowly slid it open. At first, it looked like any other closet, shirts hanging, a few old boxes at the bottom, a suitcase tucked into the corner. But when I pulled the suitcase out, I noticed a loose panel behind it. It didn't look like it belonged there. I hesitated, hand shaking, before finally prying it open. Inside was a small box. Wooden. Worn around the edges like it had been opened and closed many times. I sat on his bed, placed the box in my lap, and opened it. That's when my stomach dropped. Inside were photos of me. Not from when we were a family, but recent ones. Some taken inside the house, some from outside my bedroom window. There were pieces of torn paper with my handwriting, things I had thrown away. An old bracelet I thought I'd lost weeks ago. All of it carefully kept, as if it meant something. I felt cold all over. My hands trembled as I flipped through the photos. Some were blurry, taken at odd angles, like he'd been hiding. One was from the hallway, clearly shot through the crack of my bedroom door. My heart thudded louder with each one. This wasn't just strange anymore, it was invasive. I tried to convince myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe he was going through some kind of breakdown. Maybe he wasn't well. But no matter how I turned it over in my head, the fear wouldn't go away. I put everything back where I found it, careful not to leave any signs I'd been there. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed listening, waiting, watching the shadows shift across my ceiling. Every creak in the house made me flinch. Every time the wind rattled the windows, I imagined someone standing outside, watching. I started locking my bedroom door. I even moved a chair in front of it one night, just to feel a little more in control. Over the next few days, I tried to act normal. I smiled, cooked meals, asked David about his day. He didn't seem to notice anything different. But I did. His eyes lingered too long. He asked odd questions, about where I was going, when I'd be back, whether I slept well. Questions that felt innocent on the surface, but carried weight now that I knew what I'd found. The worst part was pretending nothing had changed, even though everything inside me had shifted. I felt like I was living with a stranger. I wanted to tell someone, but I didn't know what to say. How do you explain something so unsettling without sounding paranoid? I wasn't sure if I was overreacting or if I was still missing part of the story. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I started keeping my phone with me at all times, made sure my doors and windows were locked every night, and began thinking about where I could go if I needed to leave quickly. And then one evening, as I was about to go to bed, I noticed my journal was missing from my nightstand. The one where I had written everything. Every detail. Every fear. Every word I couldn't say out loud. I tore the room apart looking for it. But it was gone. That's when I realized he knew I'd been in his room. After the journal disappeared, I couldn't keep pretending. Something shifted in me that night. It wasn't just fear anymore, it was the realization that David had crossed a line, and now I was playing catch-up in a game I didn't even know I was part of. Every word I had written, every suspicion, every plan to protect myself, it was all out in the open, and I didn't know what he would do with it. I couldn't stop thinking about what he might have read. Did he know how scared I really was? Did he read the part where I thought about asking him to leave? I started staying out of the house more. I'd take long walks around the neighborhood, spend hours at the library or the grocery store just to avoid being alone with him. But even then, I felt like he was watching. One afternoon, I came back to find my bedroom window slightly open, even though I hadn't touched it in days. Another day, I noticed my laptop had been moved. I started putting tape over the webcam and password protecting everything. But the more I tried to protect myself, the more it felt like I was sinking into something deeper than just fear. It was paranoia mixed with reality, and I couldn't always tell them apart anymore. I reached out to a friend from work, casually at first. I didn't say too much, just mentioned that David had been having a hard time and I was feeling overwhelmed. She offered to let me stay at her place for a few days. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to pack a bag and walk out without looking back. But something held me back, maybe guilt, or the fear of what might happen if I left. What if he saw it as rejection? What if leaving made things worse? There was also this strange part of me that wanted answers. Who was David really becoming? Was this just the result of a broken family, too many years of emotional confusion, and not enough guidance? Or was there something darker going on beneath the surface? I started remembering small moments from years ago, how David used to get strangely quiet when his mother and I argued, how he once lied to protect me from her during a fight, how he clung to me during those unstable years. Maybe he had never really let go. Maybe I hadn't either. But the line between care and obsession is razor thin. And as the days passed, I started to realize that whatever was going on wasn't just about him acting out, it was about control. And somewhere along the way, I had lost mine. It all came to a head one night when a storm rolled in, heavy wind, hard rain, the kind that makes everything outside disappear behind sheets of water. I was in the living room, lights dim, pretending to read but really just listening. The house creaked with every gust, but I was tuned into something else entirely, silence. David hadn't come home. Or at least, that's what I thought. His room looked untouched, his shoes were gone, but I had this strange sense that I wasn't alone. It was like the air had shifted. Thicker. Still. I checked every lock. Window. Door. My hands were shaking. I don't even remember why I went upstairs again, but something pulled me there. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fear pretending to be courage. I reached my bedroom door, and before I could touch the knob, I noticed it was slightly open. I hadn't left it that way. I froze. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it echoed through the hallway. I pushed the door gently, and it creaked as it swung open. The light from the hallway spilled in slowly, and that's when I saw it. Someone had been in my room. The drawers were open, the closet door slightly ajar. On my bed, right in the center of my neatly folded blanket, was my missing journal. Open. A single page torn out and placed on top. I stepped closer, every part of me screaming to turn around, to run. But I didn't. I looked down at the page. A message had been scrawled across it in handwriting that wasn't mine. You don't understand. But you will. That's when I heard it, the softest sound behind me. A floorboard. Shifting weight. Slow, steady footsteps coming up the stairs. My breath caught. I turned toward the door, but no one was there yet. Just the growing sound of footsteps. Closer. Closer. And then, the power went out. Total darkness. Just the sound of rain, the thunder outside, and the footsteps coming right for me. In the pitch-black silence, I stood frozen, too scared to breathe. The footsteps had stopped. I couldn't tell if that was better or worse. My phone was in the kitchen, out of reach, useless. The air in the room felt tight, like it was pressing down on me. I strained my ears, but all I could hear was the pounding of my heart and the storm thrashing against the windows. Then, just when I thought I was alone again, I saw it, a faint glow. A flashlight, coming from downstairs. It moved slowly, deliberately, casting long shadows across the walls. It was David. I could tell by the way he moved. Calm. Controlled. He wasn't searching. He was coming straight for me. I backed away from the door and grabbed the first thing I could, a heavy bookend from the shelf. My hands were slick with sweat. My thoughts raced. What did he want? What had changed in him so deeply that this made sense to him? But before I could prepare myself, the flashlight clicked off. Darkness again. Complete. That's when the second twist hit. My phone, which I had left charging on the kitchen counter, suddenly lit up. A notification. Then another. Then a third. The light spilled under the bedroom door, and I saw it wasn't just from the flashlight, it was the glow of the screen. I recognized the sound. It was the alert tone I had set for my security camera app. I hadn't used it in months. I had forgotten it was even installed. But now, video after video was being uploaded in real time. From the cloud backup I never turned off. David didn't know that part. I ran to the bedroom door, bolted it shut, and opened the app. What I saw on the screen made my stomach twist. It wasn't just footage of me. It was footage of David, standing outside my room night after night, just watching. But the last video was new. Taken just minutes ago. And in it, there was someone else in the house. Someone I didn't recognize. My fingers trembled as I watched the grainy footage. The camera angle caught the front hallway, and just behind David, who was now facing the stairs, stood a figure I couldn't place. A man. Tall, thin, wearing dark clothes, face obscured by a hood. He wasn't just there. He was following David. Watching him, the same way David had been watching me. I realized then. David wasn't alone in this. And maybe he wasn't even in control. A loud knock rattled my bedroom door, followed by David's voice, low, shaky, nothing like the calm, calculated tone he'd used before. "You need to open the door," he said. "Please." I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I didn't respond. I barely breathed. He kept talking through the door, words tumbling out fast and panicked. "He found the journal. He knows what you wrote. He wasn't supposed to come here." I tried to stop him. My mind was spinning. Who was he? The man in the video? Was David protecting me, or warning me? Before I could speak, I heard something crash downstairs. Then heavy footsteps. Not David's. Faster. Aggressive. Someone else was inside the house. That was when I made my choice. I shoved the nightstand against the door, grabbed my keys, and climbed out the window, barefoot in the rain. I ran to the neighbors and called the police. They found the man hiding in the basement crawlspace. He had been living there for days. Turned out, he wasn't a stranger at all, he was David's estranged half-brother, someone my ex had kept hidden from me. David hadn't brought him here. He'd been running from him too. The watching, the journal, it was all a warning. But I'd seen it too late. In the days that followed, everything slowly began to make sense. The police confirmed that David's half-brother had a long history of mental health issues and had gone off the radar months before showing up at our door. He'd been hiding in the shadows, feeding off old resentments and twisting the past into something dark. David had discovered him a few days before I did. He'd been trying to protect me without drawing suspicion. That's why he'd acted so strange. That's why he took the journal. He was trying to figure out what to do before things got worse. It broke something in me to realize I had feared the wrong person. David was flawed, yes. Confused. But he hadn't meant to hurt me. He had been dealing with a threat even he didn't fully understand, trying to keep us both safe in a situation way over his head. I didn't know how to feel, relieved, guilty, or just completely exhausted. But I knew one thing for sure, we were lucky. It could have ended much worse. David moved out after that. Not because I asked him to, but because we both knew we needed space to heal. I still check my windows at night. I still flinch when the house creaks. But I've started writing again, not to track fear, but to let it go. What happened changed me, and it changed David too. We're no longer family by law, but there's still something there, understanding, forgiveness, and maybe a second chance, one day. If this experience taught me anything, it's that the scariest things aren't always strangers. Sometimes, the people closest to us carry the darkest secrets. But sometimes, they're also the ones silently standing between us and danger, even when we don't see it. 1.